During World War II, German soldiers fought against many elite Allied units, but not all enemies affected them the same way. Some were respected, some were underestimated, and some created a fear that stayed long after the battle ended. Among these, British paratroopers stood out in a way that surprised even seasoned German veterans. To understand why, we need to look at how airborne warfare worked and how German soldiers experienced it on the ground. Paratroopers were never meant to fight fair battles. They were dropped behind enemy lines, often scattered, lightly armed, and surrounded from the very beginning. Their mission was not comfort or survival. It was disruption, chaos, and endurance. When German troops first encountered British paratroopers, the shock was immediate. These soldiers did not behave like conventional infantry. They did not wait for reinforcements. They did not retreat when cut off. Instead, they dug in, fought aggressively, and held positions that seemed impossible to defend. German battlefield reports and later memoirs describe British paratroopers as stubborn, relentless, and unpredictable. Small groups would appear suddenly in villages, forests, and crossroads, turning quiet areas into deadly traps. Even when outnumbered, they fought as if retreat did not exist. One reason British paratroopers left such an impression was their mindset. They were trained with a simple belief: once you land, there is no escape. Either you hold your ground or you die where you stand. German soldiers could sense this attitude in combat. It made British airborne troops dangerous, not because of superior weapons, but because of their refusal to break under pressure. This psychological impact mattered. German soldiers were used to enemies who relied on tanks, artillery, and structured advances. British paratroopers relied on willpower, discipline, and close-quarters fighting. Many German troops later admitted that they feared engaging British airborne units in towns or narrow terrain, where sudden ambushes and hand-to-hand combat became likely. By comparison, German soldiers often viewed American airborne units differently. American paratroopers were brave and effective, but they usually operated in larger numbers and were relieved more quickly by ground forces. German troops knew that once American airborne units landed, armor and artillery would soon follow. British paratroopers, however, often fought alone for days, cut off from supplies, low on ammunition, surrounded by enemy forces. This created a different kind of fear. German soldiers never knew how long British airborne units would hold out, or how hard they would fight before being overwhelmed. Operations like Arnhem deepened this reputation. Even though the mission ultimately failed, German troops were stunned by how long British paratroopers resisted. Surrounded, outgunned, and without reinforcement, they continued fighting house to house, refusing to surrender positions that logic said were already lost. German commanders noticed this too. They reported that British airborne units required disproportionate effort to defeat. What should have been quick mop-up operations turned into prolonged and costly engagements. Time, manpower, and morale were drained fighting soldiers who refused to give up. This did not mean German soldiers believed British paratroopers were invincible. They could be defeated, many were captured or killed, but the memory of fighting them stayed. Veterans later spoke of British airborne troops with a mix of respect and unease, describing them as enemies who made every encounter dangerous and unpredictable. By the final stages of the war, Germany was exhausted. Resources were limited, morale was low, and pressure came from every direction. Facing enemies who fought with absolute determination only increased that strain. British paratroopers became a symbol of resistance that could not be easily crushed. The fear German soldiers felt was not panic, it was awareness. Awareness that these were soldiers who accepted death before surrender, who fought without hope of rescue, and who believed holding ground mattered more than surviving. In the end, the difference was not nationality, it was philosophy. British paratroopers were trained to endure isolation and hopeless odds, and German soldiers recognized that immediately. That recognition is what made them feared. History remembers airborne warfare through famous operations and strategic outcomes, but the real story lies in how soldiers experienced combat face to face. And for many German veterans, Encounters with British paratroopers remained some of the most intense and unforgettable moments of the war.